The number of inbound visitors rose remarkably in China between 1995 and the early 2010s, but has been stagnant since then. The number of inbound visitors in other Northeast Asian countries, particularly in Japan, has risen, except Mongolia, which has been stagnant since in the early 2000s. So this is a pretty new situation for Japan. We have a lot of inbound tourists right now, and the number is increasing remarkably. So economic importance of inbound tourists for Japanese economy is getting higher and higher. So this is cross-border visitors metrics. Anyway, you have a handout. So detail of figures, you can check those hard copy in your handout. Please see them. Economic contribution of inbound visitors. Inbound visitors contribute to consumption of goods and service in host countries as they spend money for hotel accommodation, local transport, restaurants, shopping, and various types of entertainment. Similarly, outbound visitors who spend money abroad contribute to consumption in their host country. So, tourism is now getting more and more important. This is travel-related spending by inbound and outbound visitors and from MEA, and spending by inbound visitors, percentage of GDP, and spending by outbound visitors, percentage of GDP. So in this figure, the figure of Mongolia is dominant, since Mongolia is a very small economy and their tourism is relatively large to their scale of economy. But as you can see, even for Japan, spending by inbound visitors getting higher and higher. So this is a very important point. China, inbound foreign visitors spending in China has been steadily, slightly declining over time, reaching about 2% of GDP in 2015. In contrast, outbound visitors spending abroad has risen from 1% of GDP to 2.6% of GDP, as has been known as a shopping spree in Japan. In Japan, with an increase in inbound visitors, their spending in Japan has risen slightly over time to 0.6% of GDP in 2015, but this ratio remains the lowest among NEA countries. With steady level of outbound visitors from Japan, their spending abroad as ratio of GDP has declined over time. Although Japan has a surplus in the travel service balance, this situation is not always welcome as Japanese people are not actively visiting abroad. So challenges. Cross-border visitors of people can be an important source of economic growth and contribute to people-to-people exchange, and room exists for further expansion of such visits, particularly from Japan to China and ROK. So next topic is trade and investment. Trade relation in Northeast Asia, FDI and supply chains, trade and investment policies. Trade relation in Northeast Asia. Patterns of trade are diverse among Northeast Asian countries due to different factor endowments, technology levels, and comparative advantage. China, Japan, and ROK are large exporters of manufactured products. Mongolia and Russia are large exporters of fuel and mining products. China, Japan, and ROK have also formed supply chains by exporting parts and components. which are needed by importers for next stage production of intermediate goods or final assembly. Luxshare export primary goods and processed intermediate goods, but not much parts and components and final goods. So this is a composition of trade by countries. So as you can see, difference of components are very obvious. China, Japan are okay are exporting manufacturing goods, and others are exporting raw materials. This is China's export to Northeast Asia, and China's import from Northeast Asia. You can see yellow line is Northeast Asia. So as you can see, both of them are declining right now. Compared to that, for Japan and ROK, import ratio and export ratio to Northeast Asia is increasing. Actually, amount of export and import of China to Northeast Asia and from Northeast Asia is increasing. But the whole amount of their trade is expanding more rapidly. The ratio of Northeast Asia to China's trade is shrinking right now. So this is a situation right now. Second, FDI and supply chains. China has been one of the largest recipients of FDI. In terms inward FDI stock globally, and has become a large outward FDI investor recently. Japan is one of the largest FDI investors globally, while it has not received much FDI from abroad. So you'd better to see detail in table, but actually instead of those countries are very active in FDI, internal FDI in Northeast Asia is not so active. So we can say we have more room to make more FDI within Northeast Asia. For FTA policy, among the Northeast Asian countries, China, Japan, and ROK are active passing FTA EPAs. There are only 2 FTAs among Northeast Asian countries. One is China ROK FTA, and another is Japan Mongolia EPA. So we should have more FTA or institutional economic integration. So you can see the detail by this table. So by time limitation, I'd like to skip infrastructure connectivity parts, and I would like to show our result of CG simulation. This is very simple static CG model. Yes, the model is GTAP model and database 19.0. Reference year is 2011. And we have 57 industrial sectors or commodities. So now we have 11 regions, rest of Asia, USA, EU, rest of the world. And for RCEP, we have ASEAN 9 and ANZI. For Northeast Asia, we have Mongolia, Russia, and CJK. CJK means China, Japan, ROK. So, as we mentioned, we have three scenarios: CJK FTA and Northeast Asia FTA, which include 5 countries, and Northeast Asia FTA plus RCEP. The result is in this way. We have welfare and real GDP. So for both of them, we will have a gain by CJK FTA for 3 countries and NEA FTA for all of Northeast Asian countries. And NEA plus RCEP, we have more economic benefit from FTA. Okay. So, policy implication of CJK FTA and Northeast Asia FTA. So, as I mentioned, we have a general gain, economic gain. So, we should pursue more effort to complete these FTAs. Then, we should have a chance to make APEC scale FTA, FTA-AP. And conclusion. Northeast Asia economies have strengthened economic interdependence through cross-border visit, trade, investment, and infrastructure connectivity. There is a clear benefit for Northeast Asia economies to further strengthen economic cooperation. Such cooperation includes promotion of international tourism, cross-border infrastructure development, cross-border energy trade, trade by investment, trade and investment, particularly working NEA FTA, going beyond the CJK FTA. Other types of cooperation, common interests may also be useful. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you for attention.
Thank you for your understanding for my kind of very strong version. We have still 5 presentations waiting. So if you can reduce those presentations 8 to 9 minutes, it will be very kind to us. So I will invite Professor Lee Tae-woo with Paul from Zhejiang University, China.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen. It's my great honor to be here to present some story about the impact of One Belt, One Road on the East Sea economic region. Okay, that is my research motivation. As you know, well, recently Chinese Communist Party have included the One Belt, One Road into their Communist Party constitution, which means One Belt, One Road, OBO1. That is getting important in the Chinese economic policy and foreign policy. And then also, I have seen several papers, many papers about the ESER, East Sea economic region, ESER, right? And then most of the academic papers have been written in the Korean language or the Chinese language or Japanese language. Very few papers were written about that issue in English. Also, as you see in the right-hand picture, that is, shows Greater Duman Initiative, GTI. And then Eurasia Initiative was initiated by Korean government to 2013, and then OBR. There are three initiatives that have some common factors. And then that's why also I have checked some methodology applied to existing literature review, most of the descriptive and some interviews, etc. Also, I really benefited one paper written by Professor Moon Hee-chul. He's president of I really appreciate. And that's why my paper aims to analyze maritime logistics connectivity of ports and the shipping network in the ESER in the context of ER, applying big data, okay, and complex network theory. That is my. Also, I have selected 25 ports in the ESR regions based on literature review. That is a summary. If you look into the OBR document, you can see 6 main corridors. That is a summary. Right? The right hand, that is a north-south economic corridor, is related to ESR area. That's why I'd like to